Well, welcome. Tonight we're going to address a question that comes up multiple times. Do Milford kids have the opportunities they should have in school? And we're going to spend some time with our administration about the academic opportunities. But then there's the other side to say, we had a fellow come on, I want to say 10 or 12 years ago, who really made me feel good when he said his job was to help the student athletes. And he kept it in perspective that even though he was running the sports program in Milford, kids were students first. And less than 0.5% of the kids are going to make a living at sports. But it's nice to see that there's opportunities being opened and that the kids are taking advantage of it. So tonight we're going to talk about not only how well our sports teams did this spring, but how well they're doing for the rest of their lives by getting opportunities at D1, D2 schools. So let's start with an introduction.
Sure. Peter Boucher, Director of Athletics, and you are correct. I think I'm right in the middle, 11 years. And so you were right there. Excited to be here and chat with you again.
It's hard to believe that you came on the show 10 years, 11
No,
years ago.
It doesn't feel like it, does it? It really doesn't. It's been a good decade. It's been a strong decade.
So where do we start? Why don't we start tactically? We'll go strategically about colleges and all, but how did the teams do? Because I hear that it's a bit crowded in Milford with playoff games.
I got to tell you, I promise, I'm just driving from the high school here, right? Just finished the really organizing, facilitating the fourth home game for the spring. Now, that might sound to some folks out there as like not a big deal, but the four teams that are in, track is individual, bunch of individual kids, and they did a great job. But the four teams that we have that are in, we're hosting all of them, which means you got to be careful. You don't want to put them all on one night. You don't even really want to have two on a night unless you stretch them out, because you want the fans, you want our crowd, our alumni, to not have to bisect and trisect and go different places and whatnot. So, so boys lacrosse, baseball, softball, and volleyball are all hosting. So I'm going to be busy this weekend, and I'm thrilled about it.
Now, 4 playoff host spots. That's not normal, is it?
It is not normal. Not. It really isn't. You'd be happy to get a good seat with 4 teams get in, and maybe 1 or 2 are at home, and you're excited because like putting on one home game is a lot in the playoffs, and we're happy to do it. And we've got a great home. We've got the best event staff in New England as far as I'm concerned for home games. But yeah, we gotta work 2 games.
It's like saying nobody wants to pay taxes on lottery winnings.
Yes.
But I'll take the lottery ticket every time.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Right. I'll gladly give away 30-40% of that. Sure thing. Yeah, no, you're right. Like once you get in, you're excited, but then when you find out you're hosting, we're at home. That's the best possible
What do you
scenario
have
for
to
our
do
kids.
to host? Is it a record, an achievement?
Yes, no, good. That's a good question. It's changed. It used to be you had to be at 500 or over. Now they have the power rankings. So in your division, there's probably anywhere from 50, sometimes 60-something teams. You got to be power ranked top 32. Now, if somehow, some way, which has happened, it happened to field hockey in the fall, if you're not in the top 32, I'm sorry, if you don't have a 500 record, but you somehow make it into the 32 by power rankings, field hockey did not have a bunch of wins, but they were a good team. We played King Philip and Franklin and all these powerhouse, Olive Ames, these powerhouse teams, and we kept it close. So we got really strong power rankings from that. So you either got to have a really good power ranking or you got to win half your games. And our 4 teams have all been able to do that.
If you have 32 teams that hit the power rankings, how do you score the higher points or values? Because everybody wants a home game.
Agreed. So the first 16, the top 16 get the home game. And it's power ranked. The algorithm, to be perfectly honest, is not public, meaning I don't even know what it is. We just know there's components. There's wins, and then there's losses. If you lose to a really good team, sometimes it's better than beating
A really weak team.
a really weak team, which is, I systematically I have an issue with that. But a win should mean something. It should mean more sometimes than losing, I think. But and then if let's say you beat a team that continues to move on and do well, you get more points. It stacks up. So it all accumulates and compounds
Well, I can see that you don't want to reward an athletic director for setting his team up against the weakest teams in the league.
Agreed. Agreed. So now you're right. You made a really good assessment there. So what it is now we used to really put schedules together where you'd want Milford's different in a really good way. We always wanted to play tough teams. We don't want what we call bunnies or layups, right? A lot of schools will only play you if they know they're a lot better and their chances of winning are probably 85. That was the previous before the power rankings. And we were always willing to play bigger divisions. There aren't many bigger divisions because we're usually in Division
I
1.
was going to say, Hockomock, where do you go up from there?
Yeah, it's a brutal schedule. 16 games in this league. You're battle tested. You are. So, but with the new power rankings, you want to play good teams because even if you beat them, you get a great ranking. And if you happen to lose, you learn from it. Right? You learn from what did we do right? What do we got to do better to beat a team like that? But you still get strong power rankings. Before it was feast or famine. If you lost to a good team, you lost.
Yeah, it was just how many wins, how many losses.
That's it. You're out. You're out the window with that loss, and it doesn't help you. Here, you can play a really tough schedule and still get in. I use our girls' field hockey. Only a couple of wins. But we play at such a tough schedule. We kept it close enough with those really top tier teams that the girls got in. I was proud of them, the coaches and the gals I still am.
Well, I mean, the tactical advantage of getting in the playoffs and all is great. Great for the ego, great for the program.
Sure. Yeah, you feel good.
But strategically, when you think about the colleges, if they see girls playing or guys playing tough teams,
yes,
it's got to help in their decision to give them a scholarship.
No, agreed. And I think we talked about this a couple years ago. But I'm close with a couple of athletic directors that are local at the college level, and at least two of them in separate discussions, not connected at all, said to me, if a kid applies here, and they played in the Hockomock League, whoop, goes right over here. We're looking at it. We might not even look at the GPA first. Hockomock League means one of these 12 schools, boop, right over here. Definitely getting a look. And then we check your GPA. That's a good, we've talked about this. Student athletes. I was a principal before I came here. You got to do your day job before you do your evening job, your afternoon job or evening job, right? So, but that's a good place to be if you're in a league that has such, has this reputation for being so strong and powerful that you get a real good look at any college you apply to, at least in New England. It's a good place to be.
Well, I mean, it's like having two applicants to your school, both academically equal. Then you look for the extracurriculars.
Exactly. What'd they do? What'd they bring to the community, right? What'd they
so
help
if
with?
you're both coming from 8-2 school or 8-8 school,
Yeah.
well, what schedule does that school play?
Exactly. And the colleges know there's a difference, and I won't say any other leagues, but we know.
Well, Hockomock has a reputation.
It does. It does.
I remember before we were in the Hockomock League, there was a lot of people who questioned, why are you stepping up to the Hockomock League?
Yeah, why do you want to get in there? Yeah. I wasn't around for that, but I got to be honest, one of the reasons that I wanted to apply for the job, A, it was Milford. B, they had just joined the Hockomock League. They'd been here, I think it was 2 years they were in, and the job opened up. And I'm like, I grew up in this league. I competed in this league in high school, and then I coached in this league for 12, 15 years before I came here. And, I was fortunate enough to be, to
well,
win
I
in both.
remember there was a lot of concern to say you're stepping into a different,
yes,
I don't know if you call it a different league, but definitely a different level.
Yeah, and I want to be respectful of the past leagues too. And I think what the Hockomock League brings one thing to the table. It's I call it the NFL of high school sports, right? In the NFL, they say any given Sunday you can win or lose. It comes down to 3 or 4 plays in almost every game, unless there's just a team that's otherworldly, which sometimes happens. But it's the same way with the Hockomock League. Most leagues have 2 or 3 top tier teams. They have 7 or 8 in the middle, maybe 6 or 7 in the middle. And then they got 2 or 3, maybe 4 that are not good. That's not the Hockomock League. There's 12 teams. You have 11 or 12 that are really good. Maybe 1 or 2
but
that are like elite.
the bottom 3 of the Hockomock League
Yes.
my understanding is if you put them in any other league, they wouldn't be the bottom anymore.
They would not. They would not. They'd be top five, most likely.
It
Top
reminded me
five.
when my daughter had her first meeting with the dean at Holy Cross. And the dean looked out at this group of students and said, how many of you were top 10% of your class? Every hand went up.
Yes, yes,
He said, okay, look around you. 90% of you no longer are.
yes, right.
Welcome to your new world.
Flat line, right?
And
a
it's
whole
stepping
new
up from
start.
another league. It's nothing against the old league,
Yeah,
but it's like saying, okay, the top 3 teams that stepped up, you're no longer top 3 teams in the Hockomock League.
no, it changes. And, you know, I got to say, after 12, 13 years of being in this league, I think Milford has adapted very well. You know, we've had some hard years, and that's a good thing because you learn. You learn from those years, but we've adapted. A lot of our programs have come around and got back to the way that Milford expects and is accustomed to. And, you know, we're always working. We're always working to get better. I said this at the Dick Corbin Awards the other night. You know, our job is to honor the past and build the future. We got to do both. We got to honor everybody that played hard and all the legendary coaches and legendary athletes and all the legendary teams. But we've had to try to build our own legendary situations too in the process, you know. And we're always working at that. We're always
Well,
working
it's
at ways.
interesting when you say honor the past, which we do.
Yeah, we try to.
I mean,
We do. We talk
did
about
I
it.
understand right that the group that fundraises for the Stoico Award came up with 30 grand this
20
year?
grand, yeah.
20 grand.
Unbelievable. Just, you know, you talk about the Joe Stoico and you talk about the Hall of Fame, you know, crew. I've said it every year for 10 or 11 years now. You know, I've been in 2 other high schools for my 31-year career. This is a true sports town. I don't say that because I'm here. I graduated from one of those, right? So I say it with a little like, ouch. I thought I was in a sports town till I got here, till I arrived here. Nobody does what we do at for our senior sports
But
banquets.
you know, it's funny because we classify ourselves as a sports town. We're a kids town.
This is true, and you know what? I've said that since probably year 2, and so I really got acclimated. And by kids, I say ages 1 to 100.
Yeah.
Because I'm still a kid. You're still a kid. You know, we're at heart. This town takes care of everybody. They find
But
a
you
way.
know, you
Good
think
plan.
about it is, I've never seen town meeting because they're the ultimate decision makers.
Sure.
200 plus people who decide every dollar sold, every dollar used. I've never seen them turn their back on kids.
Never. Not in my time.
Yeah.
I've said this loud and proudly. Milford will do 2 things that other towns won't do, and they will build it or they will buy it. And by that I mean, you know, other towns will say, "Hey, let's everybody show up Saturday morning. We're going to build new dugouts. We're going to They might donate some of it, and then 3 people, 4 people show up, right? It's not getting done. I've been here where we do that, where ticket booths have been built, and you have too many people. No, some people don't have anything to do because and you have extra materials because this town has said, hey, wait a minute, we need that? Boom, everybody, it takes a village, everybody jumps in. And then when you really need like 12 to 15 people, I promise you that 45 people showed up. It's like, what? This is unbelievable.
So
But
you
Milford does
said
it differently.
honor the past, which we've done, build for the future. We have an opportunity to build something new.
Yes.
Any feedback on the idea of a new field house?
I think that's a great idea. One of the things that I have learned being in this town for almost 12 years now is that Milford personifies go big or go home, right? Like anything we've done previous to me or in my time here has always been do it the best or don't do it. And I lived by that as an athlete when I was younger, high school, college. I didn't do anything half-rumped. It was all in, man. And I'd like to think I'm still that way. But, you know, you look at the opportunity we have now to build a brand new school, brand new facilities, and I look at some of the smaller schools like Northbridge and Hopkinton and Shrewsbury, and you say those names, and there's a couple others, and they have these field houses, and they have these multiple gymnasiums and, you know, maybe small running tracks that are on the 2nd level or the 1st level. And I'm thinking to myself, why shouldn't we do that? Because we, in my opinion, are a better academic program and a better athletic program than every program I just stated. I'm comfortable saying that on
Well, the
TV.
first time I went to
You know?
Shrewsbury was for a cheer tournament.
Yes.
And we went into that field house,
Yeah.
and it was looking around saying, wow.
Yeah. It's impressive.
And it hit me because I saw kids doing things that I didn't think were allowed, like running in the high school.
Yes. Yeah.
Then
yeah.
I found
they were
out-
being encouraged to run, right?
Then
Not
I found
stop.
out this was part of the athletic training. They weren't
Correct.
just randomly
Yes.
running up and down, but
No.
I guess it was cross country had nowhere to run in the winter
So
except
yeah. There's
making
a running track
circles.
inside there. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think to myself, like we at least what I've learned and what I've tried to help and perpetuate here is that if we're going to do something, we're going to do the best of our ability. So why wouldn't we plant and build this amazing facility for the next 40, 50 years? You mentioned that, right? We were
Well,
talking
you're
offline,
going to
right?
have to, because you turn around and say we have 5 major schools. Well, now 5 schools. We don't even have the small ones anymore. They last on average 40 to 50 years before you have to do some major work. So that's a school every 8 to 10 years.
Right, right.
You know, this time, I think this culture shock or the funding shock is that of the fleet, we're doing the aircraft carrier.
Yes, you're right.
You know,
Right.
we did Brookside, we did Woodland, but now, I mean, I've
It's
been
time.
shocked at Tri-County, $288 million to build a new high school. What was the one in Haverhill? The BVT of Haverhill wanted
Yes.
440.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't think we're going to do that.
And I don't think we need to, because those vocational schools are looking for specific equipment. I don't think we need to go that far, because sometimes we're not allowed to. You can't have a program that BVT has. That's
Right.
another topic.
But I mean, realistically, even if we get Chapter 74, we can put in some.
We can put in a couple. You're right. Yes, yes. We got a couple.
You
of
sit
them
there
to
and say the high school itself is a dang bunker.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to prove to me that those cement walls aren't going to live up for another 50 years.
do. Yeah, it's not.
You know,
yeah.
and you turn around and say, okay, this is a once in a generation. It's 1973 December was January 74. We moved into what I call the new high school, which is now
Yes.
the old high school.
Right, right. Yeah.
And here I am, 50 years later. I mean, this spring we celebrate our 50th graduation out of that school. It took 50 years before we got another bite at that apple.
Yeah.
It'll
Yeah.
be another 50 years before we do the high school again.
Correct. I agree with you.
And you know, we had the same argument, back in the 70s, early 70s, about why do we need a swimming pool in the high school? We've got Casey, we've got Fino, we've got plenty of pools. I don't think anybody today would argue the value of that swimming
Oh my
pool.
gosh, I can't imagine. I would say almost every kid in this town learned to swim. That's a life skill. You could save your life, save somebody else's life, and look at all the opportunities, the fitness, the life skills, all of the great things, the teams that we've been able to support, K to 12. And that's another important thing, going back to the field house. It's not just for the high school. When you have those many courts and that many opportunities and specified rooms, that's K to 12. Middle school teams will be coming in. Youth will be coming in later in the afternoons and evenings, and there'll be so many more opportunities, ages 1 to 100, right? But going back to the pool, I agree with you.
But
Like,
when
great
we were at
choice.
the town meeting, the high school was described not as a school, but as a community center.
Yes.
Because it is used
It is.
day and night.
Yep.
I mean, how many times Special Olympics, Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock, we're at the pool,
Ye-
Special Olympics.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's
How great is
Milford
that?
High kids there, but that's
what you want.
the majority of the kids are not Milford High.
Right.
They're all the way across Milford schools.
No, it's
And
a great
when-
place to be.
And the way we built that pool, I've had so many comments that I've overheard while I'm taking pictures of people saying we're one of the few places that has a comfortable viewing section.
Oh my gosh. We have probably the best viewing section in New England.
Well,
That
I
was
remember
great
when
forethought. That was great forethinking.
my daughters were swimming, and the swim meets there's 60 heats, and I was always blessed to have daughters in heat 2, 30, and 50 some. But you'd go in,
Yes, I know where you're going.
crowded around the pool.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as your kid stopped swimming, you'd leave
Yes.
because there wasn't enough room for other people to come
Open
in.
up a space for somebody else, and then you'd hope that they would let you back in when it was your time, right?
Yeah, whereas for us, we got that viewing section. You can actually go there, sit, relax,
Yes.
and not be pushed in and out. So, to me, this is a generational opportunity. It's nuts to think that we're going to spend $200 million refurbing
Yeah.
a place. I always joke and say, when I was a kid, you could have bought Milford for that money. They would have thrown in Hopedale and Mendon.
Yeah, right. No, yeah.
But
Times, it's inflation.
if you turn around and say, adding a few $1 million more to open up this kind of opportunity,
Yes.
give them a state-of-the-art training facility. I mean,
You spread that out over 40, 50 years, right? I mean, how do you not do that, I guess is I think that's the more appropriate question. How do we not do that?
Well, you don't do it when you have people who are going to try and squeeze every penny. And being on the FinCom, I'm considered one of the cheapest guys around. But you're cheap, you're in trouble. You're frugal, that's a whole different thing.
Yes. It's
We
decision
save
making.
money, we squeeze money, and that's why we've had surpluses for 16 straight years. You save money where you can, so when the opportunities come up, this is a once in a generation, once in a lifetime opportunity
Agreed.
to build a field house like we built a pool. But it's going to be tough because when you start talking numbers of 180, 200 million to refurb, you're going to have to really make a case. But I think the strongest case to town meeting is always going to be it's the best thing for the kids.
Absolutely. Period. Drop the mic, right? I mean, and all the kids in town. You pick any pocket, everybody's going to have opportunities, multiple opportunities to utilize that in the morning, during the day, in the evenings, and on the weekends.
Well, I mean, everything, you don't have cheerleaders moving wrestling mats because the wrestling team just left. You don't have wrestling
storage,
team trying to
clamped
squeeze
yeah.
in.
No, everything's stored up in the ceiling. Everything, it is. That's what the new schools do. It's amazing. It's unbelievable where we've gone, where we've come from, and where they've gone to. You're right. No, you're right.
So, 4 playoff teams that host. Let's start with baseball. Tell me about baseball this season.
Baseball's been phenomenal this year. We're really deep with our pitching staff, senior heavy team. So there's experience, there's skill. Our coaching staff is fantastic. We really have high hopes for this playoff run. This is probably the best record we've had. It's definitely the best record in my 10 years. Alex Dion has done a phenomenal job. Mike Reed is the assistant coach. He's a former college head coach. He's the assistant coach. That's the kind of staff that you have. We've got a couple other guys sprinkled in there that are, new to Milford, but they know Alex, they know Coach Mike, and the kids are just phenomenal. They're tough. They're typical Milford kids. They're tough. They're gritty. They're perseverant. They want to win, and we have mapped out the days and games and what it would take to get to.
Now, why
the
would
finals.
somebody like a Coach Mike who's done college? You always think of the goal is to go up in life.
Yeah, good question.
High school, college, semi-pro, pro.
Yeah.
Why would he come to a Milford?
I think it's a couple things. That's a really good question. And we have a number of them. We have another gal who is an assistant volleyball coach who really should be a Division I college head coach, Kelly Lawrence. And Tammy Weber and Andrew Manini could both do that, but the three of them work together. But I'll answer your question with Mike Reed. He'd been coaching with us for a while. I think what happens is, I know this happened to me when I was coaching earlier. I call it the crew. You get in with a couple of guys, right? And you really start to build a coaching family. And, I was lucky enough to be the head coach for a long stretch. And I had these 2 assistants who were they could have been the head coach anywhere, not just where I was. But we would strategize and we'd plan and we'd facilitate. And in what we called the war room, where you're making all your practice plans and getting ready for games and whatnot, nobody cares who the head coach is. When you walk out the door, I got to make the final call.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way Alex and Mike work. They're phenomenal. Mike brings something to the table, and I think Alex treats him with such respect that they don't really care who the head coach is. They love baseball. They know that Milford is a high-level baseball town committed to baseball. That goes back, you know much better than I do, right? Like just, it's a baseball town. And to be able to say, I coach baseball in Milford is a big deal. And now Mike caught on teaching. He's teaching in Milford, so I think it's a really good setup for him. That's probably the
It's
best.
going to be hard to be a coach and have a day job, unless it's a teacher.
I think any day job, to be honest, because if you're teaching 5 classes a day, inevitably you want kids coming down and seeing you, and that's great. We have one of the highest percentages in the country of staff members who work in the district. We're at like 87, 88% now. If you can get 50, that's considered like A+. So we're almost at 90. That's another Milford thing. It just, that works. Kids see you in the hallway. They got to behave.
But
early in the morning
if I
till late
want to
night.
coach a sports team and I have to work for a living, it would be nice if we were all independently wealthy and you didn't have to work.
Good point.
But practices are right after school.
Usually right after school.
I remember for years when my daughters were at the YMCA camp, I used to try and take off every afternoon in the summer to meet them down at 3:30 because I was 10 minutes away. I'd get in at 5:30, 6 in the morning, stay till a little past 3 and run. But that was tough because I couldn't always get 5 afternoons off a week.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah.
And you sit there and
Yes.
say, if you have a normal position, how do you get 5 days a week off starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
You don't. Like, it's a really good point because it's getting harder and harder to find coaches right now. And it's finally infiltrated in Milford. I've seen it in all my colleagues, and sometimes they'll have a coaching position. They'll get one applicant. You got to take that applicant because you need to run the team, right? But really, what it's boiled down to, and there's 2 ways to look at this. So I would answer your question or your thought with, you got to be a teacher, you got to be independently wealthy, or you got to be retired. That's it, right? Those 3.
I hadn't thought about retired.
Yeah, so we have some of those folks, and we're happy to have them. But the other piece of the puzzle is people are not going into coaching and refereeing or officiating, because the parents are really tough on them. And that's not bad in Milford. I want to say that real quick to the camera. We don't have a huge issue. We don't. We do when we go to other places. The Milford parents, for the most part, really get it. And I'm proud
I
of them
was
for that.
blessed when I was coaching soccer in Milford because for 14 years, I had the most loyal parents.
Yes, yeah.
I remember once walking into the John Smith Center and 3 of the moms came running up to me saying, there's a coach from a neighboring town complaining about you. We had never played him. I said, can I earn the complaint?
Give me a chance.
And when
right?
I walked up
yeah.
and I said, is there a problem, sir? I knew right away, and I had to.
Bite your tongue.
We have beat every team in Milford. This was the indoor soccer. We came here to play soccer, not to play against girls, and half your team is girls. And I remember just,
bad choice, buddy.
I know what I wanted to say. And luckily, John Smith jumped in front of me and said, Coach, Al's girls can play.
Yeah.
So I looked at him, I said, well, look, you've come all this way. Rather than have you forfeit, why don't you let me and my little girls try and play against your big team? I got back to the team and I said, I want this one. I want this one.
Let's go.
At the end of the game, we had beat him 2-1. As we were shaking hands afterwards, he said, I guess you called it. He said, I told you me and my little girls would try.
That's awesome.
It's like, wait a minute, don't ever tell my, and they were daughters to me. Because when they hit 15, I wanted to know who they were hanging with, so we took the top girls on the team I was coaching and their boyfriends, put them in the boys' league. So we got together every.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I get to see who they were hanging with, and but don't ever tell me that my daughters, because they were daughters to me, are going to be held up because of an alternate plumbing structure. I'm sorry, that
like
doesn't
that.
hold.
Yeah, no, good for you guys to go give it to them.
And it was just, that was the sweetest win. It meant nothing, but it meant a lot.
Yeah, no, and it can, it should. I like that. That's awesome.
So now, if you were to describe Milford baseball, is it pitching? Is it hitting? Is it a balance?
I would say we are balanced. We can hit. We got some heavy hitters, but I would say our strength is our pitching. We have three dudes who can start any game, and we got one or two relief pitchers who can come in third inning, second inning, fifth inning, doesn't matter, and they can throw. And that's why when you get into the tournament right now, like let's say, I don't think it'll happen, but if you play every other day or every third, a lot of times you'll catch a team that's in the second or third game of the tournament, and they got their starter, and then right? Then they got other guys that can pitch.
Well, that's what happens a lot of teams, like Holy Cross hockey was that way. Their first line, their second line could keep up with just about anybody.
And then there's a drop, right?
And then so first period, second period, they did well. Then all of a sudden, as the game gets on, we played BU, and their fourth line was as good as anybody's first line.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
We played BC, and again, we did well for the first two periods, and then you could see where it just, they ground us down.
That's it, you just get worn out, by that. And
Didn't have the depth to have four first lines.
no, and I think that's where us having those three guys, I think we're in a really strong position, and that's why I think our confidence is high, and we just got to play well. We still got to hit, we still got to play defense, but we're ready to rock. We're ready to go.
Now, are they all seniors?
Let me see, Damian Lab. Yes, most of the starters are seniors. Our relievers are not.
Well, that's good news.
One of our relievers is a sophomore, and
That's even better news.
yeah, this kid can throw. Like, he's good.
Because it sounds great for this year, but
Yeah,
seniors graduate.
yeah, that's hard. You're right. You got to, you got to build. You got to reload. You can't really. We know kids are going to graduate, so we got to build around them and build with them. But yeah, no, we're looking for a strong run. We want to see what we can do with this crew.
Did baseball players get opportunities at college teams?
Yes, yep. Damian Carter's going to move on. Kiko is moving on. There's a bunch. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I would say, because there's 25, I think we got 25 kids this year.
Is that
we've
normal
got
for baseball?
I'm sorry, 25 for the graduating class. We talk about 3 to 5%, so we really should have like 7, and 7's heavy. Like, we got 112 student
If you
athletes.
get 5, isn't that considered good?
5 would be considered like an A. So 25, I don't know if that's platinum or what, but we're excited to be able to have that many kids, playing at the next level. It's just, it's
So
hard
is
to
this
explain.
D1, D2 ball where they get
This is
scholarships?
D1,
or-
D2, 3. A lot of these kids are getting some money. Yes, a lot of them.
That's good.
D1, D2, they're getting a half scholarship. Some of them are getting, some of these kids, between academics and athletics, because a lot of these kids are really smart, and Milford has a great academic, both, Freudian slip, academic and athletic offering, where a lot of these kids are having almost everything paid for between their both of those components, and I love throwing this number out there because Dr. Otland shares it with me a lot. We have more AP classes than any of the contiguous towns around us. Anybody that touches us, if you add them up all together, we have more AP classes than any of them combined. So I think people, when we talk about academics, you want to get a good education, drop into
See,
MHS.
that's always something that people don't understand. I bring up this example when my daughter hit 8th grade. She went into Middle School East, run by Tommy Davern. Now, there was a man who took pride. It was his world, his kids. And when I walked in, I said, Tommy, why do your MCAS scores suck? Pardon my French. I knew I was going to get a reaction.
Yeah, that wasn't going to go well, right?
And he looked at me without blinking. He says, because you're ignorant. I said, great, educate me. And he explained to me, he said, the MCAS scores that are published are an average.
Correct.
So if you look at Milford, we're very different than other towns. We're heterogeneous.
Yes.
You've got the kids who are just starting to learn the language,
Correct.
who
A lot
are
of
just starting to start their education.
Yes. Yep.
And then you've got the Milford kids who are typical Milford kids, high achievers. He said, we get 2 Gaussian curves. It's a bimodal
Correct.
distribution.
Yes.
If you took the top kids and compared them against any town around us, he goes, I wouldn't be behind anybody.
Nope. Nope.
But again, Pete, if I told you you're going to take a test in 2 years in Mandarin, I don't know how well you'd do.
I don't know how well I would do either. I don't think I don't know if I'd bet against me, but I'm not sure I'd bet for me either.
So, you know,
I need to
again,
study.
it's important that parents understand the kids who work hard, the kids on the upper end do as well as any of these contiguous.
Agreed.
And Milford's made so much progress because in '73, 3 kids ran out of science courses at Milford High.
Wow.
And the principal sent us, there were 3 of us, he sent to Dean Junior College to take biology and
my
chemistry.
Gosh, because they
That was all you had.
wanted to challenge it. Yeah, sure.
It was either that or do independent study.
Yeah.
And I hold nothing against it, which
Yeah.
was fantastic that I got to go to junior college before I graduated. But today, Dr. Ortland doesn't have to banish you out of the school system.
No, we're taking college classes while we're in high school during the day. We've
And
got
you
that
don't
set
have
up.
to, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I had to get a car,
Right.
which, you know, when you're coming from a family that your mom's a drill press operator and your dad's an auto assembler, buying an extra car was no menial, easy task.
Agreed. No, I get it. It's my background as well.
So now all of a sudden you sit there and say, you can compete against college academic athletes at all levels without leaving your school.
Right. We're very fortunate to have that.
So the next one, we talked about baseball. Volleyball?
Volleyball. Woof. We got high hopes for them too. I guess that's going to be a broken record. You know, they've been ranked in the top 5 in the state all season. The last game of the season, we played Newton North. They were ranked number 2. We were ranked number 5. We had a great start to the season. We had the second strongest schedule, from my understanding, mathematically in the state. And we wanted to play good teams. We wanted to play great teams.
Well,
all
I
season
loved
long.
that game against Newton North because
Yeah.
everybody was talking about, okay, Milford is going to get its comeuppance now. They're playing the second best team in the state.
Bring it. Thanks for coming. That's what the kids were chanting at the end of the night. Thanks for coming and start the buses, which is totally respectful, totally okay with that. You know, no, it's we had a great start. Lost a couple games 2/3 of the way through. We had some injuries. We had to figure. Coach Manini had to figure some things out. The kids did. They did. They righted the ship. They figured it out. Newton North comes in very confident. Very confident, I might say.
Well, you ranked second in the state. Why wouldn't you be confident?
True. You can be respectful while you're confident. I'll just say that. And they left humbled and with a healthy dose of respect. That was red and white, and we were excited about that. We played really well, 3-1.
But again,
convincing W. Convincing.
It's great that we won, but we won with class.
Yes, 100%.
There was
Yep.
no jeering, no chanting,
Nope.
no antagonistic.
Nope, and that's another thing I'm super proud of after my 10 or 11 years. The kids understand, the parents understand. We're here to cheer our kids on, not jeer the other team. We're here to, and we go home or away, doesn't matter. Same thing, same expectations. Cheering on Milford, not jeering the other team. And I'm very, I would say I'm probably one of the few athletic directors in the state that can say, I'm really happy with our home crowds and our away crowds. We know how to behave. We do. And I like that.
I remember my only yellow card I got coaching
I had a few of
was
those.
in Framingham because the referee came by and said, your parents are cheering.
What's wrong with that?
And I said, okay.
Yeah, right.
Are they saying anything inappropriate? And he came over and he said, look, they're not allowed to cheer. And I said, I'm confused. If they're saying something inappropriate, I'll support you. He says, we play library soccer here. And I said, what is that?
I don't even know what that is.
He says, you're not allowed to cheer because your parents are so much louder than the other parents. I said, no, wait a minute. You think I'm going to go tell my parents that they can't cheer respectfully?
Because they're not?
And I said, sir, I apologize because this may sound sexist, but I'll go tell the fathers. But if you think I'm going to tell those mothers
Oh my gosh.
that they can't cheer respectfully for their kids. I said, the loudest one happens to be the one that's sharing my car on the way home. I like the way God put my appendages together.
I like it.
You know,
Yeah,
but
not a good move. That's crazy.
I was stunned, but I got a yellow card.
Wow.
And I just sat there, and I guess it was part of that movement where everybody gets a ribbon, and you don't want
Not a movement I was thrilled with.
You know, again, I have been places where you heard words that shouldn't be uttered amongst children. And,
Sure.
you know, I had one uncle come up to visit to cheer on one of our teams, and he yelled, "Kill her, kill her." And I walked over and I said, "Stop.
We don't talk like that.
Cheer for our girls,
Yeah,
not
yes.
against anybody else's."
Right.
But overall, our parents, I love the fact that they were always there. They always got into it.
That's what we want. You know, we want like an excited, borderline cult-like following.
Yeah.
That knows how to behave. That's what you want.
Softball. Milford has a reputation of girls
do.
softball
They
not
do.
doing too bad.
Yeah, no, we've got some state championships, some league championships, a long line, right? The red and white line. Yeah, no, we're back. We're back in the tournament this year. We feel good about that. You know, I always say to the kids and the coaches, same thing. Once you get into the tournament, everybody's 0-0. So you don't really know what can happen. I've always said I don't really care about rankings. Like, you can watch a team and say, wow, they're really good. But you know what? Everybody breathes, everybody eats, everybody sleeps. So everybody can win or lose. And I've said that since, 21, 22 when I was coaching. And we're just going to give it everything we have. You know, we've got a home game, and we'll see what happens. And then if we win, we know we're on the road, and we're going to get a really tough opponent. But listen, we're focusing on Saturday at 3 o'clock. That's it. And we think our chances are good. I like those gals. They're tough. They're gritty. I like the coaching staff. They're knowledgeable. They're excited. We got a good crowd. We got a good team. Let's see what happens.
You know, and again, I remember when the softball field came up, and we forgot to put lights on the softball field.
We fixed that this year, though. We fixed it.
Yeah, I was going to
We
say,
got
but it was like, why do the boys' fields have lights and the girls don't? You can come up with all sorts of reasons, but at the end of the day, it's like, oops.
Yeah. No, sometimes it
Okay,
happens.
let's budget it and fix it because nothing away from the boys' teams, but they're not any more or less important than the girls' teams.
Agreed. Couldn't
So
agree more.
we needed lights. We found the money and put up lights.
No, we appreciate it. The girls had a blast this year. We had multiple night games. Because to be truthful, it's great for the fans. You got a better chance of getting better umpires if you play at night. So there was multiple reasons. We had 5 or 6 night games this year.
Well, you also have a better chance of people attending.
Fans, yes. That was another reason we did it.
If you have a weekday game, again, it's nice.
3:45, 4 o'clock, it's hard. But if you play at 6, a lot of people run home, grab dinner, and boop.
Yeah, I mean, that's not too terrible to say, leave work a few minutes early, zip through the house and get to the game.
Yeah.
But if you got a number of games during the week, not everybody can leave at 2, 3 in the afternoon.
No, not at all. But it worked. We appreciate the support. Another
So,
great situation.
how many seniors on the girls' softball team?
Oh, I want to say, I'm going to guess, we did the senior ceremony. I want to say we had, I'm going to say 7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll graduate a good group. 6 or 7, I'm going to guess in the 7th ballpark there. Baseball's 8 or 9. Senior laden, but you know what? We're
Is
young
that
too.
normal to have that many seniors?
You know what? I think you're fortunate if you have that many, because most of them played all 4 years, right? A lot of them come through, But I got to be honest, we've got a lot of freshmen and sophomores that are starting, so it's a good mix. So if you're losing 5 or 6, you got to replace them. And we've already got a bunch of kids out there that have got Hockomock League varsity experience. We're good with that.
Well, I remember years ago when Sean Smith's daughter was pitching, and it was when she leaves, we lose everything. And then his other daughter stepped in. And then after they left, well, now it's all over. Well, it seems like
cycles.
They keep doing well.
Yeah, no, they go in cycles. And, you want to have those generational players, and we're happy to have them. But if you stick around long enough and you build your infrastructure and you get kids excited at the elementary age, people funnel into the program. which is harder to do these days because kids are less likely. That's a national situation, especially since COVID. A lot of kids checked out, didn't check back in. We're all working on that. But if you do things correctly and you love your sport and you're the coach, you don't just coach 3 months. You're working year round with clinics and summer camps, and you're doing things that are, the kids know who you are, they like you, they respect you, they want to play for you, but they know who you are early in life. And that's why we want our coaches to remain in the system, because it's consistency that we've learned. One of the biggest factors of winning is having a consistent coach for many years. So people know your system, they know what to expect, and people learn your system. If you're rotating a head coach every 2 or 3 years, that's hard. It's difficult to build consistency.
Well, it's also the strategy. You start training kids for a certain strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And all of a sudden a new coach comes in that wants to do it
Yeah.
completely different. Takes a while to...
Yes, to grasp that and process that. And then you want it to become second nature. So that is difficult. It's hard.
When we were in high school, you had a lot of 3-sport athletes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Is that still prevalent now, or is it more specialized? Because when
Good question.
when we played soccer, from the kids when they were 6 and a half, 7 years old, we started in August, played fall ball till end of October, moved indoors till March,
Yep.
then April to June. So we were together 40 weeks a year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You really got to know the players. You really got to teach them your style.
Sure.
But I remember we tried putting my daughter, we said, maybe it's not healthy. Maybe we should try another sport like basketball. Yeah, she'd last about 5 minutes every game because she loved throwing the hip check.
Yeah, chucking people around. Yeah, soccer's
And
a
she
little
kept
more.
saying, what's this foul thing? If they don't want to be hit, tell them not to jump in my face.
That's awesome.
It's like, no, they're allowed to do a jump shot.
Yes.
Well, then they're allowed to get hit.
Yeah.
And it was like, we could never get...
Not in basketball. That's funny. No. It's, you know what? That's also feast or famine. We have an Iron Hawk Award that we give out now. So if you are a 3-season athlete, we really, really treat you right at the end of the season in the Dick Corbin Senior Sports Awards. Specialization has definitely carved its way into 21st century athletics, and it's hurt. It's hurt. You get kids who find out that they're really good at one sport, and then you get the club sports who make money off these kids and families in the other 2 or 3 seasons, right? Who tell them you got to play year round. So if you that waters down our gene pool, right? Because we get a lot of kids who are specialized in one sport, really great at one sport, but they're really good at other sports, and they can help us. They can be varsity and really help us win and be competitive. And what happens is the second part of that is the specialization, the overuse causes injuries.
Oh.
And a lot of the college coaches will tell you that they prefer dual and tri-sport athletes. They do. And I've always said this. If you look at, I tend to look at the championship, the NFL, the NBA. You look at it, and the numbers are 95 to like 97% of not every player on the field, every player on the roster, 95 to 97% consistently in the major leagues. They were 2-sport athletes, and some of them were 3. A lot of them, your football players were wrestlers, or your football players were football and track. They threw disc. They ran the 100, and any conglomerate of that. You take anything you want. Your swimmers. A lot of them ran cross country, 2 distance-orientated sports. There's all of these sort of synonymous sports that go together. And we want that. We're fighting for that, but we are battling the club sport mentality and people who really make a living, coaching club sports now. And I don't know if that's a great thing.
Well, the club sport was not cheap either.
It's not.
Because back many years ago,
We're talking thousands now.
it was $600 to $800
Yeah.
per season
Yep.
to play on a club team if you made it.
Yes. And that's a good point. Now, back in our day, if you made a club team, it was a big deal. Right now, I think, and I love that you brought this up because I'm going to share this. Some people know it and some people don't. Club teams, if you can write the check,
Yeah, you're on the team.
you're on the team. Because what they do is they have an A, B, and C. They don't tell you that. This is the A team. Well, they'll call that the red team. My B team is my white team. My C team might be my black team. And what they do, you're a club coach, I'm a club owner, you're a club owner. Hey, we're going to match up our Bs. So whatever color I have is good. But we don't, nobody gets told. So the games look good, right? They
Yeah.
look competitive because that's they keep the levels segregated. So I just let a big secret out there to everybody. We'll see how
Well,
that
the
goes
other
over.
thing too is a lot of the placement is from the parents' ego,
Yes.
because
Yes.
not all kids can afford. Well, now it must be over $1,000.
It's 3,000
Oh.
minimum for one season. I don't know any club team, and I could be wrong. People might email me and whatnot, but I talk to the kids. I don't know a sport that's under $3,000.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, 12
For one
years ago, 14 years ago, it was
Yeah.
$600 to $800
Yep.
per season.
Some of them are 5,000 because they travel. They'll travel, and then you still got to pay your travel.
Then you got to pay all the
but
travel.
it's 5,000 to be on the team. So it's you can see. I hate to say it, you can see why people go into it. You know, like the coaches, they get
Well,
paid.
I mean, to the coaches, it's no longer donating your time,
No, they're getting paid, and they're getting paid
And they're-
very well.
and they're serious
well.
about winning because they keep their position.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of parents, if they're paying $3,000, $5,000 a season, they want to see a coach that wins.
They want winning, and they want their kid to play. Absolutely. Yeah.
Which, when we made the Maple level, that was a whole different. There, you started feeling that the kids had to earn their way up to the first and second divisions.
Yes. Yes.
They had a place for development kids, which I don't know if they was that much better than the Bays, the travel teams,
Sure.
but it certainly cost a lot more.
I was just going to say, and that probably opened the door to, hey, we can make money doing this.
Well, I
you know?
always wondered if they didn't subsidize some of the kids. You know, your top teams.
Mhm.
You can't afford the $3,000. We really want you. Maybe it's $1,000.
Mhm.
So you let.
And that can happen if they're top tier like blue chippers. I don't know that for sure, so I won't speak to it as much, but it's definitely a possibility. Let's
Yeah,
put it
and I
that
mean,
way.
in Milford, when we first started, when I was a kid, you couldn't play soccer in Milford unless you were born kicking a ball.
Mhm.
There was
Mhm.
one team in the town,
Understandable.
the Portuguese club,
Yep.
and when you went there and saw what they were like, you were like, no.
Yeah. This is going to be a problem.
We had to go to Franklin.
Yes. Yeah.
As ironic as it sounds, we had to go to Franklin
Yeah,
because we weren't
rival.
good enough to play for Milford. Now, all of a sudden, Milford's got such a huge program.
Mm-hmm. That's one of our powerhouses right now.
I mean, I got a 5-year-old that is going to soccer every week. So if she decides to stay with it, or my grandson is 8, if he decides to stay with it, he's had years and years of practice and feeding skills.
Yes. Right. For sure.
So now we've talked about baseball, volleyball, softball,
Lacrosse, boys lacrosse. This is a big deal. They haven't made the tournament in well over a decade. It probably, I want to say Coach Austin would know for sure. I want to say 2011 was the last time we were in the tournament. These kids have worked hard. The coaches have worked hard. Austin coach, he teaches at the high school. He was the young man who was on the Portuguese national team. This kid can play himself. I've seen him on TV playing. He shoots that ball and it's like 90 miles an hour. I would not want to be in net, but definitely a different story. But he's got the kids excited. They're locked in. The parents, the families are locked in. We're pumped to be hosting Friday night, 7 o'clock.
You know, it's amazing because I remember when Milford first put up a lacrosse team.
Mhm.
I mean, there are kids, so you're proud and you're
Yeah,
cheering, but
for sure.
it was painful.
You know, and to be truthful, lacrosse is still fairly young in Massachusetts. It's more, hotbed of New York, a little bit New Jersey. Now, believe me, Massachusetts has some great teams, and New England has some very strong teams. But it's still new. It's still young. We'll call it young. I would call it young. It's still growing. Got a long way to go,
Well,
too.
I think the success of the soccer programs, same as American football,
Mhm.
it's because the kids have programs that they started.
Yes.
I mean, we watch some of these when my grandson's playing flag football.
Mhm.
It's amazing what they're learning, and from their first game to a year or two later,
Yes.
I mean, all of a sudden they're passing the ball and they're catching it. they're running routes that you never expect them to.
No, not at that age. No, you're right. Everything has moved forward so much. That's a really good point. Kids are learning more sophisticated athletic situations at a much younger age. You know, take a look at our wrestling program, for example, right? We have kids that are starting wrestling in the second grade.
You're
Maybe even
kidding.
No, we do. We have 100 plus kids in our youth program. And so when Coach PJ gets him, we have a middle school program now. So when Coach PJ gets him, he's not, we get new kids. But for the most part, when he gets, ninth graders, we're not teaching them, hey, here's the down stance, here's the, we're talking high level. These kids can already rock and roll for 6 minutes. They know a lot of moves. And now we're already like at this third level of teaching, as opposed to just, well, here's how you score wrestling. Here's a takedown. Here's a near fall.
Well, it's just like American
different.
football.
Yes.
If the kids for the first time ever played was in high school,
how far can you go, right? If you got a bunch of kids like that, it's challenging. It's challenging.
I mean, we'd still cheer them on. I remember the music program. I used to love the integrated concert because you saw the young kids, and you remember when my daughter got her first violin, sounded like she was pulling the tail off a small farm animal.
Yes, right.
But then you see the kids as they get to high school and what they've become.
Yes.
It's the same thing as watching Pee Wee football, and all of a sudden they get to Milford High, and you're like, these kids know what they're doing.
Exactly. Look at the high level of execution and strategy, for sure.
So are you getting enough support from Milford for the athletic program?
I think so. I got to be honest. I can't complain. I rarely hear, and I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I rarely hear no. Like sometimes we got to wait a little while to get something, or you got to plan or strategize for a couple years if it's a really big ticket item. But I got to be honest. I mean, this is a ferocious sports, and I don't say that because I'm here. I say that because I've come here. You know my going joke, right? I was born at Milford Hospital. Took me 40 years to come home.
Come back.
Yeah, and I finally got back, and now I've been adopted. I feel like I'm home, and I use that. I love alliteration. If you need something for these kids and you can prove that it's important, Milford will build it, or Milford will buy it. And they have not let our kids down in my 10 or 11 years. They haven't.
Well,
they really
I think a lot of it is your attitude. When you came here a decade ago,
yeah, thank you. I
and
appreciate
said,
that.
I have student athletes. Now, we all know your job is to focus on the athletes, but keeping it in perspective that the academics have to come first. One of the things I heard from the coaches at Holy Cross, the hardest thing was recruiting athletes with a high enough academic level.
Right, to be able to
get
cut
past
it during
admissions.
The day. Yes, right. Got to do your day job if you want to do your afternoon job,
Well, I look forward to the fall and see what happens then. And 4 playoff home teams. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
incredible.
And I pushed those accolades back onto the kids and the coaches and the families, and I said, come out and see us. Check the website.
And to the families, take advantage of this attitude. You don't have to worry that it's only going to be sports, that you're going to have academic shortfall because of it. If you have a question, call Coach Pete. Talk to him. Become comfortable, because Milford's a place you can be proud to have your child. With all the scholarships they're getting from the colleges, I mean, we can ask our school committee members, and they're going to tell you get a great education. You can ask the teachers, they're going to tell you got a great education. But at the end of the day, it's the colleges that are the ultimate judges. So as always, thanks for joining. May God bless. May tomorrow be a better day than today. Good night, all.